conversational in that way. Let's go around briefly. Tell me your name. Tell me what you teach. Tell me anything about yourself you feel is important for me to know, which could include nothing. It's not important for you to know anything about me.
Everybody knows I'm Randy, assistant principal, but I taught 20 years pre-K, first and second grade.
All right. Yes, Randy. Nice to see you. I'm sorry. Okay. Randy's over here. Let's go to the state.
Tracy, kindergarten, 26.
Shut up. You gotta tell them about the Hancock and the Hancock. So you
Okay,
tell
I
them
recently
about it.
remarried and.
That's Saturday.
Saturday.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow.
So what's your name now?
It gets better.
My last name is now Hancock, H-A-N-C.
But she can't speak.
But,
Just wait for it.
computer illiterate, as I am, on Facebook, my name is Tracy Mobley Hancock.
And
They won't let her change it.
she can't
I
change
can't
it
change it
for
for 60 days. But I am Hancock.
I just have to run with it then.
At least you didn't put a hand hop.
Well, that's what,
That's true.
yeah,
To avoid confusion, is it okay if I just call you Tracy?
yes, please do.
Okay. Hello.
I'm Stacy, I teach kindergarten.
Okay, Stacy, good to see you.
I'm Kathy, and I also teach kindergarten.
All right. Cappy, am I saying it correctly?
Kathy, C-A-P-P-I-E.
Got it. Good to see you. Hello.
Hi, I'm Renee, and I also teach kindergarten.
Renee. Okay, good to see you.
LaWanda.
Little
That's
one.
the capital W.
The capital W.
All right.
That's
Wonderful.
And I teach kindergarten for at least 2 more years.
And then what?
Retirement.
What's that going to be like?
Can't wait, I got 3.
Might entail grandchildren.
It'll be something good, whatever it is. Luana, good to see you. Hello.
Hey, Jennifer, first grade.
Jennifer, nice to see you.
Rebecca, first grade.
Nobody wants to say anything else about themselves other than their name. And Tracy, that was a good detail.
We can't top that.
No.
That's fair. Hello.
Heather.
Hello, Heather.
And special ed for kindergarten first.
Okay, nice to meet you. Hello.
Ashley, first grade.
Ashley.
Jennifer, first grade.
Jennifer.
First grade.
Tammy.
Diane, first grade.
Diane.
Laura, first grade.
Okay. Laura. Hello.
Ariel, second grade.
Amanda. I couldn't help but notice your shoes. Those are great. Look at those. What are the ones you want?
They got like all the, the G's and the glitter and sequins. They're bedazzled, I guess.
Okay.
They got a bedazzled price on them.
I'm sure they do. Amanda, good to see you. Hello.
Hey, I'm Anna, and I teach second grade.
Anna. And you.
I teach second
That was the first of the year.
for 2 more years, just like Miss Wanda over there. And then I'm gonna say, bye.
Are you gonna stay in Georgia or are you gonna go to like a beach?
Oh, I'm staying in Georgia because I have 5 grandchildren, hopefully by then I'll have 6 or 7.
Yeah, gotta stay local.
And I'm gonna be Nene full time.
Yeah. Denise, good to see you. Hello.
My name's Rebecca, I teach second grade.
Okay, Rebecca.
She's got 30 more years.
Good baby.
I'm the baby in school. Allison, I teach second.
Allison, good to see you.
Caleb,
Okay.
second grade special ed.
All right, pleasure seeing you all. I didn't miss anybody, did I? And Tammy, anything to add? No, that's fine. I caught you.
Got my mouth full.
I caught you in the middle. That's all right.
RTI coordinator.
Right. Right. Okay, talk to me a little bit about where your students are in terms of reading independently, and the answer to that might be, they're not yet. And that's fine. So, kindergarten, where are you? Here, yeah? Probably not much, if any, independent reading, true?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, some.
Some are.
That's great. You know, sometimes you get a lot of variation in kindergarten kids. Sometimes you get kindergarten kids who come to your class and they read quite well, actually. Some, not so much. First grade, how's independent reading going? Say it again. Some? Yeah. Second? Give me a percentage, first grade. Rough. Rough percentage.
No, their names and different, y'all all want to read. Our readings is just not on the level.
Both. That's a good point. Decoding, but also comprehension.
I can't comprehend anything. You can read it, but.
Certainly they can comprehend many things.
Some of them.
So, second grade, how about y'all? Some.
Some they choose not to.
Right, there's that.
There's probably more reading than comprehending.
Elaborate on that.
Well, they're so focused on decoding and reading the words that they have trouble comprehending what they're reading.
Sure, of course.
Or some we can read too, they comprehend it, can answer questions, but they can't read it all.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good feedback. Everything that we're going to be talking about today could be done if students are reading and writing independently, but it could just as easily be done, the stuff we're going to be talking about, collaboratively, where we do it together. So we're going to start with second grade, actually, take a backwards approach, then go to first grade, and then we'll finish up with kindergarten. The type of writing that we're going to focus on most today, actually all today, excuse me, is just a short answer. Tomorrow, we're going to focus on narrative. I talked with your third, fourth, and fifth grade colleagues this morning about those two types, but then a third type as well, which is the multi-paragraph essay, which of course is just, in my view, not developmentally appropriate for kids in the kindergarten grade level, first grade. A very, very small number of second grade kids, in my experience, can handle the essay. So just kind of like looking and seeing if they're ready. And there are a lot of pieces of evidence that we can use to determine if they're ready for a little bit more of an extended piece. So today's just like a short answer where if you can get a couple, one, sentences out of your students, it's great. That's the name of the game. It's all about the quality of what you say. It's not really about the quantity of what you say. And getting kids, like you're already doing, in that habit of mind. It's all about the quality of what we're talking about here. Tomorrow we'll focus on the narrative. I've got 3 texts. One of them is a fiction text called, Is There Such a Thing? Too Much Chocolate. There is a nonfiction text for first grade. Oh, Too Much Chocolate is second grade. Then we'll transition to first grade and we'll go to nonfiction, social studies, and ELA combined. That's Ruby Bridges. Text is called Walking Tall. And then we're going to finish up with kindergarten. And we'll look again at I think we're doing a fiction text for kindergarten. More specifically, here's what we'll cover. Whenever we do reading, kids will comprehend what they're reading more if we're talking about what we're reading. I'll say that again. You notice several of you are shaking your heads. This has been borne out by so much research that we would be crazy not to do it. That is, whenever we read, we're having kids talk very purposefully about what they're reading. What does that mean, talking more purposely? Well, for instance, I'm going to ask you to connect some discussion questions that you can ask students during the reading with the reading standards at your grade level. If we're doing fiction, that will be RL, reading literary. If we're doing informational writing, that will, informational reading, nonfiction, that would be RI, reading informational. Just a little bit of a quiz for you. Let's start with reading literary texts. How many standards are there?
9, 8, 9,
10.
10.
But the 10th, it's basically 9. The 10th is just asking students to read a wide variety of texts appropriate for that grade level. So basically 9 is the answer. What about reading informational texts? How many do we have?
9.
Yeah, good answer. We got 9. We'll cover both. All right. Let's go back. Lost my slide. There. So after, there's a lot of talking about what we're reading. Then and only then will we have just a little bit of writing about what we've read. Question for you. Why wait until you've been talking actively about what you're reading before writing?
So I can understand it better.
Comprehension will be higher.
They know what we're doing, I mean, they know what the story's about, and because they talked about it, and you talked about it. and-
Yes, 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 yes. What a golden opportunity that we have now to prepare kids for the kind of stuff they're going to do as they get older. All of the writing that kids do, for instance, on any grade assessments is text dependent. It's based on something that you have first read. If we could get kids thinking while reading about the kinds of things that our reading standards are asking them to think about while reading, they are in such a good position by the time they get up into the 3rd grade. Why do I say that? Well, for instance, short constructed response writing questions in 3rd grade, for instance, on milestones, they're all related to the reading standards. All of them. So by the time, ideally, by the time kids get up into 3rd grade, this business of reading for what the standards are asking us to read for as good readers, this will just be old hat. Yeah, when we read nonfiction, for instance, we read for main idea. When we read fiction, for instance, it's important for us to pay attention to the characters, that kind of stuff. Stuff that you are already doing. And let's keep it going. Okay. Oh, and then I also brought in some actual student responses. 2nd grade, 1st grade. The kindergarten example is done collectively, though. I was the one doing the actual mechanics of the writing, but the ideas came from whom?
Yes.
From your students. The ideas were theirs. That's really cool. I think you're going to like these written responses from 2nd grade, 1st grade, and kindergarten. They tell us a lot about what our students are doing well and where they need some support. I'll give you breaks. You will be out of here on time, if not sooner. Big believer in that. Whenever I taught freshman English, I would always say to students, I might start late, but I will never end late. I was notorious for getting to class like 7 minutes late. You know the rule? How long do you have? Remember, what's the rule? When you were an undergraduate? 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
You gone.
Oh, I printed it out in my syllabus.
I think it was 15 minutes when I was in college.
It may have been, that's a long time.
Oh, yeah, that was.
15 minutes is an eternity. Especially in an era prior to social media. Like, what do you do for 15 minutes? Look at each other? God forbid you actually start up a conversation with somebody.
In one class.
Okay, what I've also done is I've given you just a little organizer that I use when I'm working with students. And you'll see that this one is related to fiction, but this could just as easily be related to nonfiction. The only difference would be that if we're reading fiction, I'm also going to have students write a narrative. If we're reading nonfiction, I won't. Simple as that. So I could use this same template for nonfiction. The only thing that I would do is I would get rid of this last row. That has to do with the narrative. Everything else, though, remains the same. In other words, we start with some pre-reading, which of course, old thing. You've been doing it for a long time. By the way, why ask your students a few pre-reading questions before you begin reading in earnest?
Get some thinking.
Good answer. Gets the wheels turning. Yep. Activating prior knowledge. Great answer. Great answer. 2 salient factors for reading comprehension that we know from research. 1, background knowledge. 2, vocabulary. There are others, but those 2 are big. Background knowledge, prior knowledge. How can that get activated? Well, a lot of ways. Pre-reading would be one example. So I think it's a good idea. And I know it's an idea that's not a new idea. It's something that you've been doing for a long time. Keep it going. During reading, this template calls for us to bring in a few discussion questions. Actually, let me rephrase. During rereading, I don't really like to ask discussion questions during the first read. The first read all the way through. Why not? Why can that be tricky? Think about it.
They don't have a lot to discuss yet.
There's not a lot to discuss yet. You're still getting familiar with this story or this nonfiction. Good answer. I'm sure that you've seen this as well. Some kids get frustrated by having to constantly stop and ask and answer questions. So I'm a big believer in doing at least 2 reads. 1, and let me be clear, it can be of the entire text or just a segment of it. Whether I'm doing a segment or the whole thing, I'm going to read the segment or the whole thing in its entirety first, and then go back a second time at least. And that's where discussion questions come in. What's one thing that you notice in this template about the 2 to 3 discussion questions? Time to the standards. Humor me. This might seem like, well, let me rephrase. There are really obvious answers to this question, and there are less obvious answers to this question. Why is it a good idea to tie our discussion questions to our reading standards?
Well, because that's what they've got to be able to,
What are they gonna be testing?
yeah, I mean, they have to be able to.
You got it. I'm a big believer in these standards for one huge reason. If kids come out of 12th grade, oh, and by the way, quick aside, the standards for kindergarten for reading fiction and nonfiction are so similar to the standards for 12th grade kids. What changes really as kids get older? The difficulty of the texts. Yeah. If kids come out of 12th grade being able to do what these 10 standards for fiction and these 10 standards for nonfiction are asking them to do, they will be very well prepared for the university ranks or the career ranks. Whatever path they go on next. Quick aside as well here, there was a brief survey that was given to University of Georgia faculty when it comes to literacy. Actually, this was a graduate student PhD topic. She was interested in your students in history, philosophy, mathematics, biology, so on and so forth, cross-disciplinary. Where are you seeing student deficiencies in terms of reading? Nonfiction, for sure. But I'll tell you what, fiction's not easy to read either, is it? There are a lot of kids who are struggling, according to this data, just getting past a surface level and actually being able to do some critical thinking about what they're reading. You know this. As you start getting later on in the standards, 1, 2, 3, and then all the way through 10, the rigor picks up. We start off fairly straightforward. I mean, it's not quote-unquote easy, but as the standards increase in number, they also increase in rigor. And so here's my thought. That if kids are able to do, by the time they graduate, with some consistency, everything that our 10 standards for fiction and nonfiction are asking them to do, watch out. It's going to be really good for them. And arguably, it would be really bad if they can't. We'll talk about that as we go on. All right, show. Here we go. Let's start with, back to the template. And then after the discussion questions comes what? Just a short writing question. Short sentence or two, tops. Could be done collectively, could be done independently. So what we're going to do over the time that we have together is we'll do this with second grade, and then first grade, and then kindergarten. Questions about where we're going? Have you had your honeymoon yet? I was going to say, you just got married on Saturday. That would have been a quick honeymoon.
That's coming up.
Okay. Too much chocolate. If you teach second grade, has anybody taught this one before? Too much chocolate. And what'd you think? And how'd it go?
I don't know exactly how to do it, but I mean, we read this last year.
Did your students like it?
Yeah.
This one's kind of fun to read. Let's get a true to form. Let's do a global read first. Global just means start to finish. I'd like a volunteer to read the first page out loud and the second page out loud. I know there are readers out there. I mean, what I mean by that is people who like reading out loud. You exist. Volunteer to read the first page out loud. Tracy, you got the first page. And then on the flip side,
Luanda will do it.
Luanda, thank you
You're
for
welcome.
being voluntold.
Too much chocolate. They should have never left me alone with you, said Kiara. That was a bad mistake. Kiara was speaking to a bag of chocolate. It was under her mother's bed. Brother's bed, excuse me. I can't read it. It was a green bag, and it was almost full. Tyler had not eaten much of his Halloween candy. Now he would never get the chance. Halloween was 3 days ago. Kiara had dressed as a bumblebee. Her brother had gone as a clown. They walked up and down their street and the two next to it. Every house they went to gave them candy. Some gave them lollipops. Some gave them caramels. But Kiara's favorite were the houses that gave them chocolate. Kiara loved chocolate. She liked milk chocolate and dark chocolate. She liked white chocolate and coffee-flavored chocolate. She liked chocolate drops, chocolate bars, chocolate oranges, and chocolate eggs. She liked chocolate so much that by the day after Halloween, she had no chocolate left. Tyler ate more slowly. He saved his candy. He ate just 1 or 2 pieces at a time. Last year, he made his Halloween candy last all the way to Thanksgiving. That made Kiara mad. It was not fair that he could have candy for weeks and weeks, and she had none. That wouldn't happen this year. Tyler had a friend over. Kiara had been watching them. When they went to the backyard to play, she sneaked up the stairs. She opened Tyler's door. She crept over to his bed. And now she was going to eat his chocolate. "You're all mine," she said, and laughed with a sneaky laugh. She unwrapped the first piece. It was a chocolate-covered cherry. She ate it. She said. The next piece was a chocolate egg with marshmallow goo inside. She bit into it, and some of the marshmallow got onto her chin. She ate the rest of it. Marshmallow goo is the best, she said. Next, she ate a chocolate shaped like a flower. Then she ate a chocolate shaped like a bunny rabbit. She ate chocolates with raisins inside, and chocolates with pink fluff, and some chocolates that had nothing inside them at all. Finally, she was going to eat all the chocolate she wanted.
Thank you, Tracy.
After a few minutes of eating, she heard footsteps on the stairs. She tried to get away, but her stomach was too full. Tyler came into the room. He looked mad. "Hey," he said, "what are you doing with my candy?" Kara tried to speak, but she was too full. She stood up and fell back down again. "Off," she groaned. Her face was covered with chocolate. Her hands were sticky. She even had chocolate in her hair. "I don't feel so good," she said. "I think I ate too much chocolate." Tyler started laughing. He laughed until he fell down too. "Well," he said, "I think you learned your lesson." Kara's stomach felt like it was going to burst. She felt terrible. She would never steal Tyler's candy again.
Thank you, readers. Your job with colleagues at your table. Pre-reading. Now that you've read the whole text, what questions during pre-reading would it be good to ask our students? Say it again. That's always a possible consequence, yeah. So with teammates, I want you to jot down like, I don't know, 2 or 3 pre-reading questions. Remember, you haven't read yet. This is just to give students a little bit of a heads up, get them thinking about the content that they're about to encounter, okay?
Do you like chocolate? Have you ever eaten too much chocolate? Oh, yeah. I've got kids in my room that don't like chocolate. You got it?
Do you like chocolate? There was another one.
Have you ever eaten too much chocolate?
I don't think I ever have.
Do we all need to fill it out or fill one out together?
Just one.
Have you ever been trick or treating? Do I have to fill it out? I got it on this paper. That's fine. I'm gonna use it. Is that why you got all this chocolate on the table now?
Good connection.
We have to fill it out on here.
No, you can fill it out wherever you want to fill it out.
When do you get chocolate? Or what?
Just the pre-reading.
So we have, do you like chocolate? Have you ever eaten Have you ever been to the street? That would be a good question.
I don't guess so.
Hey, Randy.
Did he say no?
He don't know.
I got a lighter in my pocket. No, you do, you have a lighter in there. Something cold.
You need some ice.
I'm playing.
Some people did that, didn't they? Get the air conditioners on.
And they got 12 here.
So that won't bring the heat. I'm talking about day school.
Did you watch that?
And my word got it.
I never 11, I taped it, but I haven't had a chance to watch it. But it was Herbie and Nick together.
It's a lesson in critical thinking. So, are you drinking coffee? Oh, excuse me.
Hot cocoa. Don't chew upon your tongue, don't chew upon your tongue to get rid of that sugar. On your tongue, you get, now you get this thing. We got 2 questions. 3 questions. Hold on. Yeah.
Take about another minute.
We're just supposed to jot down to it, preview.
Pre-reading only. Yep.
It's here. You haven't made me That's right, I did have Mr. and Mrs. glasses. I still got some Mr. and Mrs. stickers on there. Then know what size they're gonna put on
Okay, time. We're just gonna do a round robin. We'll start here. I'll go here. Go on the back. I'll finish here. Each team is responsible for giving us one example of a pre-reading question. Y'all go ahead.
Have you ever ate too much candy at one time?
Whoa. Yes, good pre-reading question. Getting the students thinking about what they're going to encounter. Eating so much candy all at one time, what's that like? So initially it's great, isn't it? And then suddenly it becomes less great. Good discussion question. Oh, sorry, pre-reading question. Go ahead.
What do you think would happen if you ate too much chocolate?
What might happen if you eat too much chocolate? That's a good one. I don't understand why this is so funny. You knew it was coming.
Who likes chocolate?
That's a nice basic one to start with. Who likes it? Good. What'd y'all say?
Well, we had both of those, and then we put, have you ever been trick-or-treating?
Yes, that is such a good question. Why?
I didn't hear, what was that?
Because that's the time for our knowledge.
Have you been trick-or-treating?
Do you think that all of your students have been trick-or-treating? Building that background knowledge for those kids who've never had that experience. It's a really good idea. In fact, I had that question, but I also backtracked and first asked, what is trick-or-treating? Does anybody know what that is? Anybody not know what that is? And then, have you ever been? That's a good one. Nice. I also wrote one that said, have you ever wanted something that someone else had?
That's true.
Have you ever wanted something that someone else had? Yeah. Okay.
Took something that was.
That's a better question, I
Have you
think.
ever stolen anything from somebody?
Although, I wouldn't want students to self-identify their kleptomaniac tendencies.
My daddy did.
That's why Daddy's in jail.
Because that's what can happen, right?
Yep, you get all the skeletons out.
Okay, good examples of pre-reading questions. And you have that pre-reading discussion with students. Generally, you don't need to let it go on for very long. You don't need to let pre-reading go on for very long. Sometimes it can be done in a matter of like a minute or two. Sometimes the texts that we're reading with kindergarten kids, first grade kids, second grade kids are a little bit more complex. In which case, a little bit more pre-reading might be a really good idea to build that background knowledge. Okay, so we've got the engines revved, so to speak, via pre-reading. Now we're going to go back and do a second read. Because we've already done one read start to finish. You did a great job. What I want you to do is think about the second read that you're going to do with your students. And what I want you to do is write out 2 or 3 discussion questions, all designed to help students comprehend, dig in a little bit more to this text so that they can comprehend it at a higher level. Here's what I want you to do. I've got the first 6 standards for reading literary texts for second grade kids on the overhead. what I'd like you to do is map your 2 or 3 discussion questions onto at least one of the reading standards. So for instance, if you asked a vocabulary question, how words and phrases contribute to the meaning of a story, that would be reading standard 4 for literary texts, which is a really important one, because we said earlier that background knowledge and vocabulary are 2 of the most salient factors for reading comprehension. So getting kids thinking about vocabulary is a good idea. Okay, questions about what you're doing right now? All right, I'll give you 5-6 minutes to do this, and then we'll share out. Sorry, quick interruption. My advice would be this. Start off with a discussion question that's a little bit less rigorous, such as just like a key detail question. Who, what, when, where, why, how. And then you notice that as the standards increase in number, they increase in rigor as well. And so what I want you to do is try to scaffold these discussion questions. Start basic, and then up the ante in terms of the rigor as you go on. Okay?
Or who was the story about? Who was this story mainly about? What is the story about? You're gonna break it down.